We'll start the meeting, 7:23. First thing I'd like to do is to welcome Chris from the Yorkshire, formerly of, should I say, the Yorkshire Local Councils Association, where he was Deputy Chief Officer. He's got a lot of experience in working with and for parish councils, so we welcome Chris and wish him all the best. I've also got a couple of other updates that colleagues have asked me to forward, and also a reply to a member of the public who asked a question a few months ago. So Councillor Ireland would like me to remind members, elected members that is, to remind you of Standing Order 44. A councillor raising a point should identify the standing order which he considers to be breached. So identify the standing order. My interpretation of that is that as long as the councillor is able to identify the spirit of the standing order and the content of the standing order, I'm not too bothered about you actually specifying numbers, because I don't really want people flicking through standing orders in the middle of the meeting, but you do need to identify the standing order that is relevant. To remind councillors of Standing Order 48, the ruling of the chairman on a point of order or the admissibility of a personal explanation shall not be discussed. We get into a little bit too much personal discussion. And remind councillors of Standing Order 48B that members shall address the chairman, specifically in the context of not addressing each other, really speaking out of turn, or addressing members of the public in meetings. I know Clive wants to come in. Clive's had his hand up for a while. I don't want this to become a discussion. But Clive, do you want to? Is there something really burning and really?
Yeah, I know Chris is doing the job today. Can I make sure that the questions asked by the members of the public are actually recorded this time? Because months and months since we were getting them on the minutes from the meetings, but all of a sudden they stopped. So what's happened is when members of the public asked a question, and we promise them a reply or whatever, there's no record of what they've ever said, and we can't follow it up, which is why I would ask that if we can minute those, well, not necessarily minute them, they were just given us as notes attached to the meeting, and also if we can pursue the written question format, so that will take care of that, because you'll have a written record as well as a verbal recognition. But members of the public, if they don't get a response, we've got no record other than going through the video of the meeting, and that's a long-winded approach.
Please, Hilary.
Well,
thank you. Yeah, Clive, we were talking about that just as we were handing over to Chris this afternoon, so that should be in hand. I know that Chris is going to go through, so he's going to spend some of this week going through the council's policies, processes, doing some clearing out in the office, and providing an assessment, which is certainly something that we much appreciate. And he'll report back to us on his findings, so he'll look over all of our policies and procedures. He does have an inbox that's absolutely full of things that have been accruing over the last few months, so please bear with him, and he's going to go through all the minutes and pick up any resolutions that might not have been acted. I know I've got councillors here wanting to ask questions, but can I move on? Stuart,
I'll withdraw mine, because
is it really urgent?
I was going to say something about people quoting standing orders.
Okay, so it fills his link to what we've just been discussing.
Well, I'll just say quickly what I would say is, if people want to start quoting standing orders, could I suggest quite strongly the people that want to start bringing this issue up need to read them and not put their own interpretation on and follow them. Simple as that. Thank you. Phil.
Sorry. That's it. You're on.
I'm on. I was here. Yeah, just another one, just for especially for members of the public, because they do, and I can understand they want an answer. But when we read an elector seeking a response to a question at the meeting must be given the clerk written notice to a question at least 10 working days before the meeting, so it gives us a chance to prepare for the meeting to give you an answer. Because if not, they're going to have to wait to the next one. That's under what our standard orders are for this. So can we just have a look at that one under 95.6, that a member of the public do come and they want to reply the same night? It's not always going to be feasible and possible, but if they put it in, like we said, in writing 10 days later, we can have it, then at least then we've got their name and address and who said it. Okay.
we've discussed that actually.
I know I'm dyslexic, but that's beside the point, Kev.
No, I said, what about people that are, weren't actually coming around there.
We need to move on from here. Okay, so that's that one covered. I was also asked in a previous question from a member of the public, who I'm sure you're all aware, as you've mentioned earlier on, that an election was called for a vacant seat very recently, and I was asked in the public question section of the meeting to read out in a council meeting the resignation of Councillor Darren Smith. So I'll do that. I'll do that today. Darren does actually put some notes alongside his resignation. They are separate from his resignation, and I suggest that you contact Darren if you want to find those out. But I'll read the main body of the resignation. Dear Anna, as of today, it is 6 months since I attended a council meeting, meaning that I shall reach the statutory 6-month requirement to stay on board as a council member. Having thought long and hard about my position as a local councillor, I offer the following. Due to my work and family commitments, my position would be best served by someone who has the time and resolve required for such a position. With this in mind, I regret that I tender my resignation as a parish councillor in Anston. To finish on a positive note, as one should, it has been a pleasure to work alongside you and to take this opportunity to wish you all the best in your roles within Anston Parish Council. Many thanks, Darren Smith.
That is not a true record.
Thank you very much.
We've got real copy. We'll read it out at next council meeting.
Can I ask members of the public not to interrupt? Thank you.
Once again, the public get deceived.
Yeah.
Please, Kevin.
No, I'm not sitting here listening to live.
From the chairman.
Councillors, we have been interrupted several times, and I've just read an extract from an email, and I've heard a comment that we're reading lies. We're not. That's a copy of the email that Darren sent. So, on the advice of the clerk, I'm going to ask members whether they would like to ask Kevin to leave at this point.
Do what? Leave.
Sure.
I'm going to suggest quite strongly, I think tonight it's been said quite often enough about interruptions. We're all intelligent people. I'm going to propose, Chair, that from this point on, we work on a principle. So you're still talking when I'm trying to talk, so it's interrupting. Can I suggest that the public be given a final chance, that you tell them that if anybody else interrupts, that individual, or if it's in your opinion, all the public will be asked to leave. We can't carry on doing this, having interruptions all the time, because all it's doing is causing bad feeling between the public and councillors.
We can't ask all of the public to...
Well, if it's everybody that's interrupting, and it's a majority...
Ask those members who are interrupting.
Right, so anyway, the point I'll make then is from this point on, we're in the meeting, members of the public are not supposed to shout out, make comments or anything. Can I ask that if an individual carries on doing that, they'll be asked to leave, and if they don't leave, we will take further action from this point on.
Okay, again on advice of the clerk, and I'll take it as very good advice. Can we go around the table and just discuss that point, just very, very briefly? We don't want to be here for too long, so... Stuart, we're proposing that from now on we
apply the rules. Members of the public are being asked to be quiet. If they're not quiet from now on, then that individual or individuals be asked to leave the meeting.
Philip, do you
agree?
Can't
be more fairer.
Philip, do you agree with that or not?
I'm thinking.
Miles?
I agree with sentiment, yeah. I do agree.
Christine?
I'm thinking as well.
Jonathan?
If we ask them to leave and they refuse to leave, then it's not a great thing.
Then we ask for them to be ejected from the meeting.
By
the police.
Should we throw them out or...
But we don't throw them out.
It's
a case of minimum force, because we would never want to. Do
you agree what's going on? Do you agree with what's going on? Because that's the question that needs to be asked. Sorry, Councillor Ireland. Do you agree what's going on?
We'll call the police if they...
But then what will the police do?
Ask them to leave, and then they can potentially take steps to address the issue.
So we really can't actually get to anybody.
discussion.
Just
Well, we can ask them to today.
please on to, we know.
Paul? Paul, any opinions?
Very briefly by the rules, which is we are instructed that they are asked to make. That is the rule.
Clive?
No, I agree. I think we've not had a meeting since May. I think we've got a lot to sort out. I think we need to get through these meetings. All I'm just asking that people are sensible, acting in their own fashion. And, you know, I'm more than happy to discuss anything with anybody at the members of the public. If we want to do it after the meeting or whatever, chairman directs the meeting, we'll say, I would hope that we can see a bit of common sense and try and move forward.
Thanks, Clive. Colin, I think, is next behind that.
I'm very much to the sentiment been expressed. Members of the public have been coming here often to know the rules, and I often wonder now if the disruption is part of a longer term plan, because we keep getting told the parish council isn't achieving anything, but we can't achieve anything if we keep getting disrupted.
Thanks, Colin. Diane?
I would agree that we need to be consistent and we need to actually be able to have a meeting without disruption.
Phil?
I said to what Colin said earlier, that the meeting is over, the parish suffering for the few, and the big percentage of our parish are suffering for the few who to interrupt. Let's be grown up, let's be edited, let's all work together, not just my opinion and anyone else's. There's 16 opinions on here, and there's another, I want to think about another 22 out there. Let's be grown up, let's get these parish meetings sorted, so we can go forward as a parish, not as individuals.
Oh, that's better.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's my first meeting. We do have a public session where they can ask any questions and we can answer. But it does say we will, I've not got the full bylaws, etc. Could you use the microphone, please? This is a closed session, so I have to agree with what you said.
Excuse me, Joe.
Yeah.
Would you point out, please, again, to council, if they don't use the microphone, it will not go on the recording.
Okay. Can I ask all members to use the microphones? Thank you. Just avoid tapping them because, as we know, that plays havoc with the amplifier. Okay. Thank you. Philip,
I have thought. Diane mentioned consistency, and I think that's important. What we've got to do here is differentiate between the malicious comments, the heckling, and the right to free speech, basically. And there's a mix of the two, and I don't know how you get over it, to be honest, but I think probably the easiest way is, follow the rules. We don't have to give a reply if we don't want. Sorry, but that's in the standing orders, that's in the rules. So please accept what is said here in good grace and don't follow it up. A lot of the problem is that things keep rolling on after. There's a follow through on everything and we just can't get away and into the next item. So control please, accept what you're given.
I think it is a case of people are here with their own agendas and some of the questions or statements from members of the public can be interrupting. And they're not necessarily questions. You are interrupting the meeting. It can be very difficult to chair a meeting where obviously councillors have their own opinions and are entitled to voice them. The public are entitled to be in the meeting but not to contribute to the meeting because members of the public aren't councillors. They're not holding office on the council. So it's not. If you want to, as members of the public have done, if you want those opinions to be formally considered by the council, you can raise them as questions. Or I'd encourage some of you, you're very committed, you're very dedicated members of the public, to, when vacancies arise, stand for election, stand for co-option, and maybe think about what you do when the next council's due to be elected. I'm not going to enter into a discussion with members of the public. I'm sorry, Hilary, I know that you want your point to be heard, but this isn't the time to do that.
You did pass a resolution that if people put their hand up
you can ask if they can be heard.
You've no right to speak, Hilary, and in
Well,
fact,
I'm just
you were
pointing
rather
out to you
rude
what your
at
own
the start of
resolutions have been.
start of the council meeting, so we're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into that discussion. Okay, so we, Kevin, please.
Let's go for another man, that's all I'm saying.
Thank you. So the first item of the agenda is to allow the newly elected member if present to sign the declaration of acceptance of office. Has that already been shot? Okay. So welcome Councillor Thornley to the council. Certainly a baptism of fire there with that public session, but welcome to the council. I can just confirm that declaration of acceptance of office has been signed. So 2, to receive apologies of absence. Apologies from... So that was Ben.
Councillor Ireland, I think.
So Councillor, who's got? Councillor Ireland, Councillor Bentley, due to work commitments.
Councillor Smith did say he was going to...
Councillor Smith will be late. Okay, so can we vote through the reasons for absence? Proposer? Second. All those in favour? Thanks very much. Okay. 3, DPI, personal interest in items to be discussed.
Chair, mine would be 10F.
10F. And that's because you work for John Brell.
Human interest.
Any other
Human
interests? Okay. Thank you. To identify items which the press and public may be excluded. Stuart, you've got some?
Yeah, 9.3.
9.3.
I'm just doing 9.3 because it's contractual. And did I say 10 point?
Could
10
you
point.
just speak?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just grabbing it.
Use the microphone.
10.1.
Yeah.
Just let me see what it is. 10.1. And that's regarding contracts as well, estimates for contracts. So both of them too, Chair.
So it was 10.1 and what?
So it was 9.3 that was proposed there and 10.1.
Thank you.
9.3 would probably be very, very quick anyway, actually.
I think that's to defer.
Okay. Any comments or seconds for that? Jonathan?
I say the one about project's not really confidential. It's only decided for 25 years or 25. I'm not going to go into the why is where for the lease.
Yeah, there's an email from from Ireland
contractual
to consider that sort of legal and contractual.
Yeah.
So it's really just to consider what Ireland and Clark have said to us.
I think you might need educating.
Anything else?
Sorry? Sorry, I just made a comment.
Doesn't need
Okay. Thank you very much. So we've got a proposer and a seconder for those. All those in favour? Go. Okay, to confirm the minutes of the 21st of May. Anything on page 1? Clive?
Yeah, I want to look at the start of the meeting, Chair, the minute to the elected chairman. I don't want to put that one together. That's like Councillor Darwin nominated the council, but it sounds a bit as though he should have been elected for the presidential
Poison chalice, I think, Clive.
I think, I just think it's a bit over. It's only my personal opinion. But you're only the chairman that's always been religious.
It could certainly be much better worded.
It's blank answer.
Just delete for a third term. I think that's particularly relevant to the discussion, isn't it?
Can we also do the same for the first term,
Shall we delete Diane's first term? First vice presidential term? Brilliant, I do the same for Diane. Brilliant. Any other comments on those minutes? Any of the other pages? Most of it's the statutory stuff.
So I propose to accept
With the amendment. Okay. So have a second, thank you. All those in favour?
Chair, sorry, can I just looking at the OT 2318 and OT 2018, it's just really, how can we put that on?
Where's that? fine.
It's about the annual awards evening, annual Christmas.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It doesn't actually say anything under it, does it?
Yeah.
But I think we need to
Resolve to hold.
we need to look at that again after attending the one in May.
Just get rid of them.
Okay, thanks, Clive.
I'll email reply.
Great, thank you. All those in favour? It was carried. That was just a comment actually from Clive. Thanks very much. Sign the date of the meeting, minutes. Through the board of the meeting. Get a copy to sign. Initials and then signs and dates, page 2, and initials the rest. But we can always do it. There you go. Thanks for that. Thanks very much. Yeah, I don't think it actually matters too much. 7, we don't have any grants of exclusive rights of burial. 8, planning lists.
Chair.
Colin,
Could you use the microphone?
could we ask you to use the microphone, don't you? We're on.
At the annual general meeting. Item 27/18. List 18. Paragraph 2. Council resolved to reject the length of the lines on Norfolk Drive from 15 metres to 5 metres. And we have any progress on this?
Yes, there's a secret public meeting coming up.
We're looking. Can you just clarify? Are we looking at RB 2018?
Page 3 and 4.
Page 3 of 4.
On the planning.
Sorry about that.
We don't have a. Colin, is this in the?
This is in the minutes.
Oh, in the minutes. We've done the minutes. We've done them. Sorry, Diane might have been meaning. Sorry.
Speak to me later.
It's a very quick comment. Is it something
Speak to me later, Colin, and I'll bring you up to Collins.
On the minutes, item 27/18, line 5, paragraph 2. Council and the Parish Council resolved to reject the length of the line on Norfolk Drive from 15 metres to 5 metres. And I want to know, has there been a resolution to that? Or we have an answer?
Anna has written. I do know that Anna has written to the planning team, but I don't know if there's any. It'll be, if it's there, it'll be in Chris's inbox.
Can I, just quickly, Colin, speak to me later and I'll bring you up to date on it.
Excuse me.
Because there's some emails going round between RMBC.
The people who objected personally, me being one, have received replies.
Excellent. So hopefully there's something there.
I am in contact with,
Speak to me
what's
later.
his name, Carlson.
Mark Hill.
Thanks very much. Can we get back?
Sorry, Chair, can I just add to that?
Of course you can.
This is just for information. The one before about the semi-detached property, which if people remember was on Bank Street, Wilberforce Road, Southampton, that's been passed, converting 4 flats. That was passed last week or the week before.
Where's that from?
Just to update you. It's on it was a semi-detached house they were extending and converting to 4 flats. And the meeting about Norfolk Drive, I'm attending that on Friday morning with the Borough Council.
Is that a firm date?
Yeah, 19.
Right.
16, 17, 14.
He's not confirmed it with me.
Was it Thursday?
No, he's told me he's going to...
Can we
Friday.
consider
Right, well, I've got Friday.
2018-0990?
What's your
Erection of a building for maintenance and repairs of fairground equipment. Are you on the other side?
Is this retrospective?
I don't think
We've
this
got
one's
a million
retrospective.
retrospective ones.
We've got Stuart and then Diane.
I was just going to ask if you can ask Clive if it is one that's already previously built. Is that not the one?
New one.
New one.
This is a new one.
If I'm just, sorry Diane, just to add, this is another one. If you remember the ones before, they built one without putting planning application in. This one is going through the correct process to put planning application. I've not looked at it, but if it's the same as the previous one, then it will get, is it different? But it's the one before they built it and then asked for planning permission. This is doing it the right way.
Can I just come in with a further comment?
Can I just bring in Diane?
Sorry, go on then.
Having looked at the plans, this is a much larger building and it is going in the far corner of the site. It will not be seen, but my main objection to this is the original planning permission was for residence and storage, not for maintenance of equipment, as far as I can remember, Clive.
Well, I think the problem is...
Stuart, and then can I come, I'll come in on that one.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Can I say, I'm getting, shall we say, slightly concerned on this now. Quite rightly what Dan says, the original planning application was for, I think it was 8 caravans and an area where they could set up their equipment prior to the fairground season for inspection by health and safety. Since then, we've had a permanent building put on, and when I've questioned planning, whether it's a residential site or whether it's an industrial business site, they're almost point blank refusing to answer the question. We've had, is it 1 or 2 big buildings built, and we've had to look at retrospective planning, and now it's a 3rd building. I think the concern on this site is, first of all, it's not ringing true with the original planning application, and I think now we're getting to the point where it's probably excessive, because if it's a residential site, they're putting industrial buildings on it. Or if it's an industrial site, they're building residential properties on it. So I think maybe we should, I'm not of a mind to object, but I am in the sense that we need some clarification of what it actually is, whether it's residential or whether it's industrial, because I don't think they can mix the two.
Can I just come in and then Jonathan wants to speak on this one as well? I know that in the past they haven't necessarily always played by the rules in terms of planning. I mean, personally, I think it's a mixed use site. It's residential and it's industrial. That's what they're developing. I suppose the question that we've got to ask ourselves is, are we being a little bit NIMBY? So you know, the site is there. It's right next to an industrial estate, and actually it's between the industrial estate, the refuse or recycling centre, and then there's a clear amount of grass. You go over the railway bridge before you actually hit a purely residential bit of Anston. So actually, I think it's quite a nice buffer between the industrial and the residential. And actually, they tidied the site up, and I don't have any connections with them, but they tidied the site up, and I think councillors probably should be mindful of the fact that you know, they members weren't too keen on the alternative use of that site. So if they don't want it to be used as a traveller site, then actually perhaps one of the best ways of achieving that is to ensure that it's built on.
Can I just come in again with another comment, roughly what you're saying?
We've got Jonathan to come in first.
Sorry, go
Can
on.
I make a proposal that we leave to neighbours and planners?
That's second.
And this is a separate plan application. So it's nothing to do with the previous one. It's a separate application for this specific building. So we're going to take this on face value of this, not go into the history of what happened in the past.
Well, you should do, because that's part of the planning process.
Were you addressing the chairman then, or
I just made a comment. I'm allowed to. It's a free country. If you want to start getting stroppy, Jonathan, by all means carry on.
You're right.
Anyway, Chairman, I'll carry on through interruptions, and we'll just take on face value that they do need somewhere to maintain their equipment, and from what it was like 5, 6, 7 years ago, they have regenerated the area and it looks far better. So I think good on, and I support, well, I don't actually support it, but I support that we leave it to neighbours and planners.
Stuart, Phil,
just a quick comment, roughly to what you were saying as well, Chair. It goes back to a question that was asked earlier on about the traveller site at Kidland Park. When myself and Clive went to speak to the planning inspector at the inspectors' meetings, we were arguing quite strongly about, with the planning inspector and I think it's Mr. Duncan, I think his name is, at the Rotherham, about whether that was a gypsy and traveller site or whether it was residential. And in my own personal opinion, we were being fobbed off, and although there was no lies said, it was being quite hairy-fairy, the replies that were coming back. That site, from the last time I communicated with RMBC, is classed as a gypsy and traveller site. They're putting permanent buildings on it. There's a planning restriction that's restricting it to members of the, I've forgotten the name, Showman's Guild. Going back to the question about we should be looking at past things, we should, because I believe what's happening now is it's overdevelopment of a residential site, and it's now becoming a mixed-use site. You can't have mixed-use site when it's classed as a traveller site. It's either a traveller site, an industrial site, or a mixed usage. So you can't have it all three ways or both ways. It needs clarification on what that site is.
Phil?
This come back up again, is this a new one then, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Down there, well,
Yeah.
together as we all know it.
Yeah.
It's me, right?
Yeah.
Let's be talking from... Well, I agree with Jonathan. 10, 15 years ago, even like Bosnia guy, they were a bad day. And we all know what the absolute codes around here. But to be fair to them, but yeah, it's the only thing I'd like to know. Yeah, fine, no problems what they're doing, and they have got some right piece of equipment down there, it's cracking. But can we just have clarification? What is it this or that? Could we go to RBC and ask them what's no, basically use of purpose is it for? Just so we know, would that help us as a council? No objections, but just for us, they come to, well, remember last time, that's come up, this is what they said to us. So there's no one feeling, everyone knows the standard. I've got no objection with travellers know the showman, and they know that there's differences between them. And I agree with Jonathan, you're doing a cracking job down there, but could we just...
We could ask the planning department for clarification.
Just clarification. What is it and what then it's like, we all know it, don't we?
It is it. Me too.
Thanks, Phil. Christine?
The only issue I have is the rest of us have to stick to planning laws. They appear to me to be doing exactly as they like, and a lot of it is retrospective planning. So, if we could get clarification, it would help.
So we can, if you want to propose that, we add that to the proposal. We can do that. Did you? I've got Colin next, but also Clive, and I think Miles wanted to come in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've already lodged my objection to this on the borough website, and I've based my objections for the following reasons. The entrance to this site is at the bottom of a bridge that is so narrow it's controlled by traffic lights. And according to RNBC, the recycling centre has 3,000 visitors per week. I just cannot understand why they would consider allowing more traffic onto this site on a road that's narrow. Bear in mind they not approved the building of the Brethren facilities because they said the road was narrow and unsuitable for more traffic.
It was green then.
And I think the same reasons that pointed to this.
Sorry, Hilary, can I ask you not to interrupt?
This building starts to make this piece of land look like an industrial unit, and it is not an industrial unit. And on traffic and safety grounds, plus I think it will have a detrimental impact on the Bluebell Hospice, simply because of the increased amount of traffic.
No, it's green there.
Clive?
Thanks, Chair. I think everybody needs to have a look at the original planning application that went in 2012. But it spells it out exactly in that what it can be used for. It was for the maintenance of vehicles, of the travelling showman's vehicles that they use to be maintained. There's no more traffic going in and out than there has been since 2012. It's the fact that they want somewhere to actually service them before they go out on the road for, I don't know how many months they're out at a time. So there's no more traffic. The thing about what we've had before is that these maintenance sheds have been put in all over the place quite incorrectly. They've not followed the planning rules. This one, as far as I can see, not started on. It's a proper application. They'll have to go through building regs if they need to be. The conditions that are attached to that side, it's all got to be landscaped, etc., at the end of the day. If you go back to the original application, it was for 8 static vans that the families of the travelling show were going to live in. Mr. Percival, who owns it, it's actually privately owned, has 8 sons, daughters, who each have a part of his business. Each one was allocated one area of this land. So what they decided to do after being down there for whatever years, they decided they wanted permanent residences, which I'm more than happy about. It gives them some sort of stability. And one of the things they wanted when we went to the planning meeting was that they wanted a permanent base for the families, the kids who go to local schools, etc., So it's in their interest and also the community. So I don't have a problem. If they follow the planning rules, the planners deem it okay, then that's it. But we can't object on things that are already going in and out of there. They can't go down Penny Piece Lane. That was one of the conditions. They had to exit and enter the site off Common Road all through Hatton Road industrial estate. So there's nothing going down Penny Piece Lane. They quite frankly don't get down there over the bridge anyway. So there are set of conditions. So as I say, if they follow the planning rules, I've got a problem. If Diane says it's stuck at the back of the site, then nobody's going to see it anyway. And the buildings that are going to be they're a stone, they're well built, they look really good, and I haven't got a problem with it this time. I will have a look at it if there's anything I don't like, but as I say, I'm more than happy for it to go to just the planners to
Thanks, it's been seconded. I think we've had enough discussion either way. Just to remind councillors, though, that we need to follow appropriate processes as well as the applicant. So in this case, the applicants followed the appropriate process. It's not a retrospective application. We can't hold their previous planning record against them. We need to consider this planning application.
If it's a material consideration, you can go back on the historical planning.
So we've got a proposal that's on the table.
No, can you just read the proposal just for clarity?
The proposal was from Jonathan. It was basically just to leave it to neighbours and planners. Can we make an amendment? Can I propose an? Well, actually, if you're happy to amend your proposal, so we've had councillors. Sorry.
Might explain the use for it.
Yeah.
We don't need to.
Right. Can I make an amendment to that?
I was just about to suggest that procedurally it would be a little bit easier. Councillors have asked that we perhaps write to the planning department and ask for some clarification on the use of them. Are you happy to include that in your proposal? That's been. Could you give us some full wording? Maybe it's neighbours and planners.
Neighbours and planners.
And write to the planning department to ascertain the use of the land.
Mike has just explained the use of the land.
He has, yes.
Okay.
He's not the official, response from the planning department. Sorry?
Is it agreed with something?
Yeah, I'll second.
Yeah, it's just amended his proposal, so it's...
No, I'll second the amendment as well.
Okay. Further comments, hopefully. Stuart, see you. All those in favour? Thank you.
Can I just, how many people put their hand up there?
It was a clear majority.
Oh, sorry, okay, no, I just didn't see more of it, so yeah, I'll take it.
Yep. People do need to stick your hand up. I'm not asking you to jump up and down, but do make it clear. Sometimes there's a very passive wave of acknowledgement, and we have to ask you again.
Joe, excuse me, could you use your microphone?
I am using my microphone.
Well, it's not coming loud and clear. We've had this before.
So we've got RB 2018-1008, demolition of existing garage, the erection of detached double garage, or double garage as the typo on the sheet says, with rooms in the roof space. 65 Brighton Road, Northampton.
Neighbours and planners, please.
Sorry?
I propose we send neighbours and planners.
No,
seconded. Great. I mean, actually, that's something that we've always done as a historical sort of way of looking at these planning applications. Actually, Chris's advice is that we don't need to vote if we have no opinion. Do you want to clarify that?
Typically, you just say, well, we resolve not to submit any comments.
There's one application that isn't on here, and it is on our boundary. I am permitted to actually bring the actual number.
Can we just take this one first?
Sorry, I thought we'd just
Can
done
we just
that.
take the 65 then? Do you want us to, what do you want us to vote?
We don't need to vote.
What it's saying, if we're making no comment, we don't need to vote.
Well, no, I think you need to vote.
Oh,
So it's a clear resolution. I think it's just, in the sector, you would generally say resolve to offer no comments or to...
Yeah.
Change it.
In the past, we normally resolve to leave it to neighbours and planners.
It's not wrong, it's just,
Yeah.
that's a better way of...
Resolve to make no response. Are we happy? So
Yeah.
I will propose that we make no response.
There you go.
Seconded. All those in favour, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. Diane,
There's one.
this was circulated.
Yeah, there's one application that actually is on our boundary and it's down as Kiverton Park and it is Packman's Lane and the proposal is to open that up as commercial. It's down by the canal and it runs parallel with our boundary. I'm sorry I haven't got the actual application, but if councillors have a look at it, I think it is where there was a proposal for the travellers' site at one time. And it's not on it's on everybody's boundary, Wales, Harthill, ours, and it's down as Kiverton.
Can I just come in, Chair?
Clive had his hand up actually. He was after he was wavering.
Well, I'll partly answer Diane's question, but I've not seen this one. I presume if it's not come through as Anstey and Woodsets, then it's not in Anstey and Woodsets ward. So it's not, it might be on it's on another ward area, which I think will be Wales.
I think they did that with the
Because, I mean, if people look at it, if they've got any comments, but really it's down to I think it will be Thorpe Salvin Parish Council, if it's Backman Lane. I think everybody's kicking it into touch and nobody's going to bother with it. I will have a look at it. But just to add another one, I'm concerned, Chair, that we've gone 8 weeks now without looking at a planning list. And what we've done tonight is looked at the ones that have come through this week and non-retrospectively. And I'm concerned because I emailed the planning department about 3 weeks since. There was one, the members will remember it, at Crogate. We objected to a bungalow application last year because it was in the conservation area. What they've done is they've put another set of plans in. Now, unfortunately, I missed the number and I've not had a chance to look at it. But what I did was I emailed one of the planners, Chris Wilkins, and asked him if we could have an extension for the parish council to consider it tonight. But unfortunately, it's not on the list. I thought it might be. And he said we could submit any objections, comments by the end of this week. If I can ask them, as I say, last year, the parish council resolved to object to it, and somewhere in, I think what I'll do, I'll email the numbers to Chris, but I think it's under the same application number. I think they've just rejigged the plans. But I'd like members to have a look at it, because I say, I will have a look and comment, but we did object to it because it was in the conservation area. It was quite, we all thought it was out of keeping with that. It's never been decided on, but they've submitted a new set of plans, so if people can have a look back and try and pick that one up. I think that's the only contentious one that I've seen over the last few weeks. I'll dig that number out for him, and if needs be, I'm sure Chris Wilkins will give us, because I said we haven't got a clerk, we haven't had a meeting, so if Chris uses one Chris to another, uses his best endeavours, we might get another week's grace, but I'd like us to have a look at it if we can. Thank you.
Did this have to get turned down by the planners last time because of that reason?
No, it never went through, it didn't have a decision by undetermined. What they've done is discussed it, and I think they've asked them to come back with another set of plans, but I've not had a look at this. But I'll try and I'll send that information to Chris.
You just have the clarification from Diane, is the plot of land you're talking about, it's not where the RMBC site is at the moment, or is it on the other side at Steelworks?
As far as I can gather, it's on the pad of concrete that's there. It's a very difficult...
It's an old industrial...
In between the RMBC site and the canal.
Yeah.
It's the old factory, the old...
Yeah.
It's in our
That's
ward.
in Amston Ward.
Well, that's why I'm saying, I'm not sure because it's on the boundary.
Yeah. It's Kibbing Park Road, Kibbing Park Steel and Wireworks have been selling off all their land. This is the one that we wanted for car parking for the station at Kibbing Park. we thought would be ideal to have
All we could do
additional
on that
parking.
day is object individually, because we haven't got it here.
Are we happy to, if councillors want to have a look at that, Clive or Diane, if you could circulate that, if you could circulate the application number and the individual councillors, so we're happy for individual councillors to object or not.
Will you do
or
that,
support or
Clive?
Can I just mention that Clive and I went to the planning meeting for Tesco's and it was turned down, and it will no longer be available to build on, if I think correctly. Clive, is that right?
Well, under the local development plan, I think that land is now classed as residential in future, so it's actually, it's changed its use. I think what happened was that they delayed it, and unfortunately they've fallen foul of the local development plan, because that's actually kicked in now. If they got it through before, then they would have been home and dry, but I think they may have a problem in future.
The objection was on the grounds that Tesco's did not own the beer garden and therefore could not police it.
Okay, interesting.
Yes,
So
it
was a
wasn't on.
Well, it was
They've got a
antisocial.
licence. They've got a licence and they've got signage, because there were two different applications. So they've got an alcohol licence and signage, but as I said, no building.
Interesting. Great. Thank you.
Anything to do with INEOS, do you think?
So, item 9, to consider matters from previous...
Chair, sorry, I do beg you, I'm having flashbacks here. Just to let members know, INEOS have put another application in at Woodsets. It went in about 2 or 3 weeks since now. As a parish council, we didn't object to the last application. We stopped INEOS doing any tests on parish council land, but we didn't formally object to the planning application at Woodsets as a parish council, and for that matter neither did Dinnington, I don't think. But if I'd have known by how we were going to get through the plan list tonight, I'll try and put that one on, because I think I'm not sure when the time runs out, but INEOS will be sticking to the timetable this time, otherwise the Borough Council know they're going to appeal, and they put this one in on the back of the Harthill one being successful, because the members will know hopefully that the Harthill one was approved by the planning inspectorate, so they're going back again for Woodsets. And I'm at a meeting at Woodsets Parish Council on Wednesday night. I'll try and find out some more, but I'm not sure how we go on if we want to formally object. Again, if members want to do it individually, I'll send the application number around. They can have a look and make comments as APC councillors, which I think might just help.
Yeah. They do a demo in Sheffield.
I don't know.
Just quickly to reply on that, just to reiterate again, we was asked if we would allow, I think it was exploratory drilling on council, and we firmly said no. We object to any drilling for fracking purposes, whatever, on council land. I think, my own personal opinion is, the application is in Woodsets Parish Council, and I don't think it'd be right and proper of this council as a corporate body to be objecting to something that happens in another parish. I think it would be better coming from individual councillors if they wish to object. I'm not even sure whether we
can come back on that. If I can come back on that, Chair. Fairbank, Gilding Wells, etc. parish councils all objected to this application. They turned up at Woodsets' parish council meeting, and I think if they get it at Woodsets, you can get ready for one appearing in our neck of the woods. So I think, as a matter of solidarity, to use that phrase, I think we should support Woodsets against. And I say other parish councils have objected.
Can we do it officially under 11?
No.
It's something that needs to come back to another meeting.
Yeah, it hasn't. It's not on any of the lists, is it? That are being circulated.
It will, no, because it will be answered the Woodsets list, but not for answered parish council. It comes under the ward list.
That's what I'm saying. It's not our actual parish.
No.
That's why I don't think we should comment on it.
Which parish is Patton Lane?
Right, it's the border goes in the middle of the road.
You can look at the plan.
See that red line?
Yeah.
Right where it meets the four corners from Smart Council.
So for clarification, as usual, individuals welcome to respond to that one, and we can put it on the next agenda if necessary. Okay. To consider matters from previous meetings, Under item 1, Anna hasn't managed to circulate, before she left, hasn't managed to circulate the minutes for that meeting, so I'm going to ask for item 1 to be deferred until we've got a set of minutes that we can actually share with you. Not a huge amount discussed there at that meeting, thanks Jonathan. Not a huge amount discussed there, but we'll bring that back to another meeting, so I'll withdraw that item and defer it to another meeting. Item 2, which is a joint one from myself and from Colin, about the improvements in flowerbed planting at Turner's Triangle. So the council resolved recently to erect a sort of flowery memorial to recognise the centenary of the end of World War I. And this is just to bring this here. I would propose under this item that we delegate to the clerk the ability to seek costs for planting improvements and for building that small memorial. Colin, is there Colin, is there anything that you want to say?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 5 weeks ago, we approved the cost for this in council, and we said up to £100, if I remember rightly.
I'm asking if. So we need to build the memorial. But sorry, I should have been slightly more clear. If you look at the planting, if you look at the general planting on Turner's Triangle, you've got a gate, you've got a couple of flowers, relatively lethargic-looking flowers around the gate, and then you've got a solitary bush that sort of just sits on its own. Yeah. I think it would be very nice if we got the ground workers to spruce up the area a little bit. Stuart.
Just a few quick comments. They were actually. I've been speaking to them, they put the summer bedding in, which is obviously not...
Use the microphone, Stuart, please.
They've put the summer bedding in, but obviously it's not flourishing because of the hot weather and lack of water, etc. There was actually looking at removing the gate, because it's now part of it have rotted away, so that was in the pipeline. Can I just say, I'm all in agreement with this, but I think... I've spoken to Colin about probably work on this should start maybe in October, first week of October. I'd like to see some costings coming back first, just to make sure, because there's the costings of any sleepers, there'll be the costing of soil, chip-ins, the flowers I think you've already arranged anyway at no cost I think, but I think we need a costing to come back. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, we need to see a costing of some sort.
We want some new shrubs.
No, right, we approved £100, or I don't know if it was £100, we approved for you to buy some flowers. That wasn't a problem, but this is a different project.
Well, it's part of the same project. We want
but
to
we need,
but
it's different because before it was just flowers, and now we're actually going to build a bed, which involves sleepers. So we need to have a cost, just so we can nod it through.
So I'm proposing that we allow the clerk to do that. Beth?
Can I just check what exactly is it that we're doing there? Are we putting something up to say what the flowers are for?
Right, I don't forget the plan. The intention, and it's not set in stone, we're going to build a bed where the gate is now. We're going to build a bed on a slope with possibly sleepers around it, fill it with soil. We're going to look at putting some white chippings on, and then there's going to be a cross.
Can I just interrupt, because I think Colin has got a full plan there.
With your permission, Mr. Chairman,
of course,
well, this round.
Because I've seen the drawing, that's why I was explaining.
Stuart's seen it, but...
Yeah. So it's going to have a cross, hopefully red flowers of some sort, and it's going to have white chippings behind it, and a plaque. That's the memorial. I've seen it.
To get some quotes for the extra. However, it's under £2,000. What's the
For an ongoing project. Jonathan, did you want to comment?
I was going to support your proposal. We need to let the clerk do the job. I don't mean that in a rude way, but and that's what you're here for, to make decisions which don't have to keep coming back to council every month, and it delays everything. Then you've got your delegated powers, so it's good that you can use
it. It's an ongoing project.
Yeah.
And Yeah, okay.
We don't have to second that.
If council, if council are happy for the clerk to spend up to his limited in delegated powers on bee planting for the sites, that would be my proposal for the clerk to spend up to his limited according to delegated powers to improve planting and erect a memorial at
you're going to talk to
Okay, Diane and Stuart.
Can we go to vote?
Okay, so we've got
just
a proposal
just
for the
quickly,
clerk to...
right, just let me clarify where I was asking for the costings. I've no problem with this at all, and it would probably come well under £600. The point I'm making is, we're now going to make a decision to spend money, and no council around this table has got a clue of how much we're going to spend. Now, it might be a small project, but in the past, council have done the same thing. Is you're voting for projects that you've no idea what the costs are, and as councillors, we need. If you want to do a project, I'm not going to go to you, Colin. This is in general. If you want to run a project or do something, and it has a cost, you have to be bringing costs to councillors so we know what we're voting for. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I'm just going to come in and I'll bring Bev in because she had her hand up. But what I'm asking, what we're proposing here, is that the clerk seek the costs. And basically, we're talking about the costs of some plants, the occasional bush, and a little bit of chipping and just materials to spruce it up. I don't think it needs a business plan in the same sense that because actually the council, if I might continue, the council purchases bedding. Hillary, and please don't interrupt. All we're saying is that we basically want to buy some bedding plants and some shrubs. The council already buys bedding plants and shrubs as part of its normal operations. We're just giving the clerk this extra direction to obviously obtain some costings and then spend up to his authorised limit of £600 on improving Turner's Triangle and the planting. Yes, that's the ongoing project, and the project is authorised already. Because it's an ongoing project, the delegated powers would.
Do we know how much?
Can I just bring that in because she had her hand up?
I just thought that it's important that we do recognise it, and I think that's a great idea. And if we do have a maximum amount, then it's not like we propose something that is likely to.
Could you use the microphone?
Sorry, I am speaking into it.
Well, if we can't hear.
Might have to go a bit closer.
Sorry, I just said I think it's really important that we do recognise it, and I think the plans look great. I do think that we need to put a maximum amount on there so that we're not just, going with an idea. Yeah.
So that's proposed and seconded. All those in favour? Almost unanimous. Great. Item 3 has gone into confidential session. Item 10.1 has also gone into confidential session. Quotes contractual. 10.2, which is to consider proposals from Councillor Manship regarding the Duke of Leeds Way. Miles, do you want to? Can I ask you to use the microphone? Do you want to just give us a few minutes on? Yeah, feel free.
It's not a new
There's nowhere that's been said it's here to give us a presentation. It's here to discuss it, not to give us a
I just want to show
presentation.
you this, actually.
So
the proposed plan includes the land from here all the way through to Lindrickdale, just to make it a bit clearer, because I know the map was quite small in the plan. So you can see it from there in the red all the way down to here. Just so we're clear on the route and the land along the route, and that's all. Thank you. Yeah, that's all. I can pass it round, pass it round. If I can ask the chairman if we can do what we've done before, where if we go one by one so I can write down questions from members about the topic and help answer them towards you.
Anything else that you want to say, just to briefly?
So yeah, well, the plan, apart from...
It was a very, very quick 60-second overview of the plan.
Basically, it's just it's a route which already exists, and it was talked about in the council in 2008. Unfortunately, not many things came out of that meeting. However, from now, I want to push the project forward to improve everything along there, which includes woodlands, parks, this building, the building is over there, And to also, the heart and soul of the thing is to try and get as many people of the public involved as possible, so it not only gives them a say on what's happening, but also gives us more ideas on how we can move forward with it. Everything else really is explained in that pack. The only other plan we have as a council is one for the cemetery, which was written up. Other than that, there is no plan to alter or change anything in this parish at the moment, which is why I felt the need to put one together for the council to look over and discuss.
So would you like to go around the table? Happy to do that, because that will, and we'll start, Paul's always mastered these things. So Paul, do you have any, we'll go around this way. Paul, is there anything that you want to say briefly?
No, we need to go.
Could I ask you to use the microphone?
I can reach over definitely. I mean, I would say that we need to get something moving in Sharpish, because it's like all things. The ideas are good, but they never reach fruition. So it needs to move them forward. That's my bit. Thank you.
Me? Oh, thank you. Yeah, just to prove to Miles that I have looked at it. I did speak to you last time about that. I think there's some bits on there that you either don't know, we can eliminate. Some of the bits about architectural drawing quotes and architectural drawings out to tender. We need to look at that, because that's not strictly necessary unless you put an RIBA plan of work, which I don't think we are on this one. I think you need to, or if I get a chance, I'll go through it again and see where we can trim that, because I think you admitted you've built plenty of slack in it. I think we need to try and trim that back. I notice you've got a date for 18th and 19th of August. I wasn't at the last meeting last week, and at the finance meeting. I don't know where Jonathan was. I know there's been an issue on there about the use of Rackford Meadows or something else that we're proposing. And what we thought of doing that was the parish council buying into that with regards to this. Because you've got one in mid-August, but that's mid-September. And it's over to... we're looking to organise events. Yeah, so organise an event this is through the ward councillors, through their ward plan and the money that we get to spend. And we wanted to try and organise something. I think, did anybody go to the Anston Plantation event when... in March? It was Janice Curran. It was very well attended, and we wanted to try and put something else on to build on that with the schools, and also use Anston Stones and everything else. And we thought that Rackford Meadows, as I say, you discussed it this earlier on, but one of the ideas was that we were looking to try and get a marquee, I think, up there.
So we've been charging that as well?
I don't know. Forget that at the moment. But you've got that in mid-August. This would be like you could use that as a catch-up. So if we can get it organised, there'd be a facility for a stall or whatever to display that there. So you get another bite of the cherry. So that's, from that point of view, that's something that we thought would be handy. And I go back to my pet theme now, Miles, which is spelling mistakes.
Grammar and spelling, if that can be done at the end of it.
Parish clerk is C-L-E-R-K.
For the sake of being as fast as we can, if anybody has any typos or spelling mistakes, email them to Miles. Can we, Hilary, please don't interrupt. And councillors, please don't talk to members of the public outside the press. Okay. It's one of the items to be discussed here today, actually. Colin, anything that you want to say? Can I just remind members to be as quick as they can as we go around the table, because we've only got half an hour really before we need to go into the time's of the essence. Colin?
Thank you. It's a good plan, and that's what it is at the moment. It's a good plan, but I think 18 months is too long. For example, you've got here November 2018, council started inquiring for architectural drawing quotes. Then you've got January 2019, council votes. Why can't that be done in December?
That's seen how the council works.
The council are not architects. You put council start inquiring for architectural quotes in November, then you jumped in January 2019. Okay, well, I think that's too long. If you're going to send a quote out, you then put a time limit on it and say, basically, in terms of, if you want this job, you will quote by such and such a date. And I think, as Clive said, you could drag 6 months out of this schedule easy. I don't think 18 months is too long, Miles. That's what I
Okay. Whilst there are lots of things to say about this, there are lots of things in this that the actual council have already done, and those have not been taken into account. Brook Walk, the pond has already been upgraded, as far as I'm aware of, in the last few weeks. Sorry, I'm speaking.
Can I ask members not to interrupt?
As far as I'm concerned, there has been no, and I will put my hand up as an interested party in the bowling club, there's been no input into the bowling club. You've assumed what the bowling club requires, rather than actually ask what the bowling club requires. Even though your questionnaire that goes out, I feel is very biased, it does not include all of the people in the village who have various other activities which are not included. And I find that although it is a project that, on the face of it, looks as though it is going to include everybody, when you actually look at it, it is quite exclusive.
I agree.
Miles, I think we spoke a couple of times about our play area around here, which we have, Stuart have. I said to you, we've been looking, we'll keep a consultation, because that, you know, that's my pet hate out there. Wanting something down here where all the children can come at any times. The only thing is, I can't see it. Have you come across, have you spoken to the Scout and Guide group? Brilliant, because they've got their waiting lists are unbelievable. Brownies, well, my little daughter will be happy. But now, like I said, the feedback what I've got, now the kids are coming out in the nice weather, they're out on playground. The feedback I'm getting off the parents, which I've laid to you, is just we could do with some more. So, 18 months, let's see if we shave off. If it's said, well, we need this or that, Stuart, myself, and if yours, let's get some coaches and play equipment, so we can, if anything, we can start some process off. All right, Tackett.
Just quickly, Miles, I've read it all through. Very impressed with it. I do think we do need to involve the public and find out what they actually want improving, and then once everything starts to use volunteers to help us do a lot of things, I think that will make them feel a lot more involved, and hopefully that what they're wanting we are actually doing for them.
Great. It's all right. I'm going to have an opinion if that's all right. If that's all right, Stuart. So I think it's a really good proposal. I quite like the ideas that are contained in it. A little concerned that August might be a little bit too early, particularly with us having a new clerk, actually for the clerk to get up to speed. So we might want to think about just pushing the date of that consultation back very slightly. I think there's a really good opportunity if we're printing and distributing leaflets, if we're printing and distributing questionnaires, then there's the opportunity to ask about other stuff on here as well. So I think we probably just need, as a group of councillors, to sit down and think about, is there anything else that, while we're taking the public's opinion on this, is there anything else in the parish that perhaps want to ask questions about? Can we use it as an opportunity to bring other people in? So one of the items that I'd put on, which we may or may not get to today, was to talk about a community volunteering scheme and setting up, because every year, I'll not talk too much about it because it's on the agenda later, but every year we have members of the public that write into us and say, I want to do something, and then we don't really do anything with it. If we're sending out a big questionnaire to members of the public, then we can always... If we're sending out questionnaires to members of the public, is that a bit better? If we're sending out questionnaires to members of the public, we can include some other things on it. So, do you want to volunteer to take part in this project? Do you want to volunteer to do other things? Is there anything else in the parish that's not on here that you want us to help you with. But I think public consultation, great idea. I think distributing and promoting it, absolutely great idea. I do think that we just need to look at some of those questions, and a group of councillors together look at some of the questions that we put out to the consultation. But I think it's a really good start. Thanks very much.
Well, I'm going to be Mr. Unpopular for a change. I think I've read this document. I think it's a poor document, to be honest. First of all, there is absolutely no costings shown anywhere in the document, and this document is committing the council to thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. That's the first thing. I've also heard on the grapevine that this document has been written in order to get funding for the skate park via the back door. That's my personal opinion. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you, Mrs. Warled. Please don't interrupt me.
Please, sir.
Right. So that's my opinion. Just that I'm entitled to my opinion, right? So there's also who's going to be responsible for the costings. At the beginning of the document, it says we must gain funding, etc. Then at the back of the document, it puts the onus on the council budget to pay for everything. Brook Walk. And who's going to be responsible for the implementation? Because what it's going to do is going to commit us to more committee meetings once a month. It's going to commit extra time for the clerk. It's going to commit, excuse me, I'm speaking. It's going to commit us to extra costing for the meetings, I've said. It's going to commit extra budget, and we're supposedly mixing with outside funding. Right, let me go through. Brook Walk. All the projects that have been asked to do in Brook Walk have already been done. The public footpath, or the footpath, which I think is a public footpath, there's nothing wrong with it because I've been and seen it. And if it's a public footpath, which I believe it is, it's RMBC's responsibility. The Stones Wood, the council has not established any need to maintain footpaths. However, the footpaths officer has been informed and is looking at a site meeting to come down and look at the footpaths in the middle of the woods. So that's already in place. The maintenance plan is the responsibility of the Open Spaces Committee, so that should be put in front of the Open Spaces. The Parish Hall, they're asking for a plan to be drawn up for the Parish Hall, and I've mentioned costings. To draw up plans for the Parish Hall, you're estimating between £6,000 and £7,000, and by the way, we've already got plans. That comes up, sorry, don't speak when I'm speaking, please. We've also, anything to do with the Parish Hall should come under the Assets Committee. The bowling greens are the same, and I agree with the sentiments. The bowling people have not been asked. A plan for that would again probably be the same costings, 5,000 to 6,000, and we've got plans for that already. Again, Assets Committee. Storage. There's storage built into the plan we had, and the changing rooms, there's plans in that built in. Skate park. Is this part of your skate park project or community group? Because if it is, you've not declared an interest. Go on to the recreation ground. The equipment doesn't need replacing, it just requires maintenance. The drainage, it again will commit us to approximately anywhere between £18,000 and £20,000. I don't know what signs you're on about. And it says something about there's a high demand. What high demand? We've not got it. Ratford Road, facilities. You're committing us again, if you want to put water and stuff in, to a region of £20,000. There's other things I won't go into there. So I'm not voting this because there's no costings. It's like every single project that's outstanding has just been lumped together in order, I think, to try and move stuff on that's not going to work in the way you're doing it. So I'm not going to vote for it because it's a poorly thought out plan. We'll come to this actually. You mentioned, sorry, don't interrupt me, Sandro, when I'm talking.
Please,
right. It mentions roof and stuff. There's plans in place for the roof. Half of what's been suggested has either been done or is in the process of being done. It just needs to be brought back to the Asset Committee, the Open Spaces Committee, which haven't been working in the past because of the way the last clerk operated things. So I'm not voting for this because I think it's a worthless project in the sense it's going to commit us to thousands. Sorry.
I find it hard to believe that particular attitude because this is the first positive project we've been put forward before us in 3 years. It's a way of getting the public together with us, the thing which we failed with abominably. And if one thing that this last election told us is that more than 8 out of 10 people in Anston don't care, or certainly don't care to vote. And we need to get to those people, or a good proportion of those people, and find out what they want. What are they expecting us to do? And I concur with Drew. Let's get questionnaires to them to find out exactly what's what. And Stuart's point about, you know, these things have already been done, etc. We've been hearing this for 3 years. And maybe even longer than that for you older councillors, you know, the drawings, we keep bringing them out, putting them back, bringing them out, putting them back. Be quiet while I'm talking, please. I'm not going to criticise you at all. Why do you think it's you all the time criticise? Dear, oh dear. It's not going to cost that much. All we need, you've given the answer yourself to part of it. Where are these meetings of the Asset Committee? Where are these meetings of the open spaces? We have one every 8 months. You know, what this will do will provoke more of those meetings. Now those meetings don't cost us thousands, do they? They should. No, we should be. They're meetings which we should be having quite regularly, at least once every 2 months, probably every month. You know, and this is where we failed miserably. We've let things slide. If we don't like it, we defer it. We just don't do it. What we need to do on this one is accept it for what it is, take the first step, hit the problems when they come, sort them out as we get them. Because if we don't vote to go ahead with it, that's finished. There'll be nothing achieved by this council in this term.
Can I ask Miles a few questions?
Can I ask that Miles respond?
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. Can I ask that Miles respond to them at the end?
Okay, right. Am I correct in saying or thinking this needs to be said at the beginning? This is the start of a funding bid process. Right? So, to apply for a funding, you have to have a funding manager, or whatever they're called. They set out the terms that we have to reach to enable them to apply for the funding. If all the ducks are not in a row, the funding manager will not apply, because if they don't have a fair chance of getting that funding, they won't get paid, because they take a percentage of the funding, which to me is fair enough. So I want to know, is this the start of a funding bid? If it is, then I'm all for it. Right, so I see a lot of this stuff that you've put together, Miles, as part of the funding bid. Points that we are really obliged to come up with, not just somebody's dream. This is what we have to do to enable a funding bid to go ahead. So I see it as no choice. We have to do these things or nobody will take it on. And we need someone to take it on. Simple as. No one on this council has any ability to go for a funding bid. It's very complicated. It's very complicated, and may I suggest, if anyone on this council is against this, then they should put up an alternative or shut up. Yes, the skate park would be part of it.
Excuse me, Chair, I find that offensive.
Well, you have to live with it and do it.
People are allowed to object. People are allowed to object, and when you get a choice of put up or shut up, you need to be doing something about it.
Well, that's what I'm doing now. I'm saying, no, I don't want any interjections. Let Christine finish. We're almost to the end.
The skate park will be part of the funding bid, as will the parish hall, the play parks, and the playing fields, lots of other stuff. But all these things that Miles has put together, we have to do, or no one will take it up. Thank you.
It is a good plan, this. We should support Miles, all of us. And it includes things we've been talking about for years, but never done. Like the parish hall, we've been talking about fixing it for years, and it's not really been done a great deal, has it? It's looking a bit tatty, as most people know. The skate park, it's been going on for years, and we've never actually done anything as a council to help, really. And I think we should give Miles as much support as we can, and get it through. 18 months, it's not too long. Things can't be done things can't be done overnight, can they? So I think 18 months is fine. Not a problem at all, really. Because you can't click your fingers and do everything at once. And I agree with the consultation as well, which ask people what they want. Actually go and talk to people. You know, we don't stand a questionnaire out, just a questionnaire. Speak to people when you're walking past them. You know, and find out, face to face. So I fully support it.
Stephen?
I think it's an admirably ambitious plan that we should all support. I also would like to echo what several other councillors have said, that the key to this is a public consultation. Not only is it a key to making sure that the community get what the community want, but in the event that we end up applying for funding, it is the key to being successful in a funding bid, to show that it is community led, and the people who've told me this, I was in a meeting with Voluntary Action Rotherham just a couple of weeks ago, who've done more bids than any of us have had at dinners, and they will tell you that the key to getting an effective funding bid in is to show that it's led by the community, and this seems like an excellent way of doing it. I think we should all support it.
Thanks very much. Without us getting into further discussion, because we haven't actually got to the point, I just want to put something on the table. So procedurally, we haven't actually got to a proposal on A. So just to speed things up, I will propose that we adopt the Duke's plan. Does that have a second? Okay.
Final say one.
So now it's just, this now means that a councillor can only speak once. We want to move things. We want to move things on.
I thought that's what we did first.
No, there's no proposal on.
Right.
Can you be really quick and respond? And then we've got Stuart and we've got Clive. Do we have anyone else that wants to come in?
Well, I'd like to, just with Clive and with Colin, a shortened plan would be brilliant. There's space in there because sometimes things go wrong. We don't know how long it'll take sometimes to do some of the stuff in there, especially with the consultation stage and putting all the information together. So that was just built in there as part of the thing. But if it can get done sooner, that'd be brilliant. One of the main things in here, it says that plan will evolve. It might even take longer. We don't know yet. But if it can be done shorter, I think that'd be brilliant. In regards to things, some of the things I've mentioned in here, in regards to what we see as issues and what has been done and what hasn't been done, some of it has been done, admittedly. But again, the purpose of this plan isn't just to fix what's broken; it's to improve on, to get new things in, to put in more things that are permanent and will last longer than the time in which they've lasted at the moment. I have noticed that I go down the pond is now fixed, however. The questionnaires, what you've mentioned there with the voluntary thing, is brilliant. However, I'm a bit 50-50 on how adding it onto this at the same time. Again, we can talk about that at another time, but we will talk about it in about three minutes time when we get to the questionnaires. The reason there is no costings for anything is because we don't know what we want yet. We haven't asked people what we want. So we don't know what people want from this hall. We don't know how much, if they want a new park. We don't know if they want new equipment yet. And again, that's in the plan. In the actual plan, it says to look for quotes for the architectural drawings and things like that. So that's built into there. It will put more responsibility on the council. I don't want this to be my plan. I want it to be the council's plan, because we've all got our own specialities around this table. Some of them are a lot more knowledgeable than myself. It will cause extra meetings. Again, I've mentioned that in there. But if it gets stuff done, then it's worth doing. The budget, again, the council's budget for it, we will have to put our own money towards it. Like, we can only get funding for so much. But what we put our own money towards will probably be minimal to start with. Maybe just to apply for the funding and things like that. I also want to write it for us, things like that. Again, I can't give you those costs because we haven't gone out and looked for them, and we can't go out and look for them before we know what people want, and so on and so forth. I haven't, just to clarify as well to everyone on the table, the skate park group, as you've known, it no longer exists. It's no longer a community group. The reason being that as a community group, they couldn't do what they needed to do to be able to improve that park. I haven't tried to do it by the back door. I've highlighted it in bold. It is one of the things in here, so everybody is aware of it. Again, it's part of the land on here. It's part people are concerned about, and it's part of a lot of work's already been done on as well. The council is aware of issues on a lot of the things on here. Just because we've not made decisions on it doesn't mean we're not aware of it. That can change. If no one agrees with what's been written on that bit, we can turn it all into red and say we're not aware of any issues in any of the areas, which is fine. But again, we are kind of aware of what's happening around the area. Again, consulting is the purpose of all this.
Well, I'm just going to have to hurry you on because you're exceeding your allotted...
finally, the consultation is going to be a minimum, as says in this plan, of 3 public consultations. That's the minimum, and they've laid them out why and how they're going to be done. On top of that, there will be the committee, which will be open for people to come and ask questions, like how it used to be back in the day, where people come and ask questions of that committee, made up of the people running this plan, and also contribute, put ideas in, and give us advice as well. So that's more ways in which people can get involved. I've tried to cover all bases. If there's holes in it, there's going to be. It's only one person who's done this. Bring them to me, and we can plug those holes and give better access for other people. I tried to print it in blue for yourself, so that people... Is it dyslexia? Apologies. Yeah. So even people with dyslexia can read it, and it is currently being read by a teacher with disabilities for the questionnaire, so people with disabilities can answer them better. That's me done.
We've got... I'm really sorry, but we can't... In this part of the meeting, we can't enter into that sort of dialogue. We've got Stuart and we've got
I'm just going to make some quick observations. Earlier on, you heard me make the observation: is this a funding bid or coming from the budget? I think we've just heard quite clearly from one councillor saying it's a funding project, and then another councillor, Councillor Miles, just said, well, there will be money coming out of the budget. I would suggest quite strongly, councillors, if you're intending to take money out of the budget or put money in the budget, we need costings before you approve it. I've just mentioned earlier on tonight. We've approved a project that nobody knows the cost of. If you're going to take money out of the budget, it has to be budgeted for in the budget. So that's the first point I made. It's just also a quick admission being thrown in there that now the skate park, after 3 years of messing about, the skate park community group is now defunct, and that's why the skate park is appearing in this project. It's a cop-out, putting the onus back on the council again. After a failure... Excuse me, Sandra, I didn't interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you, Sandra. It's a failure... It's a failure on behalf of Miles and his group to come up with a solution for the skate park. I think... And I was making progress. Well, that's your opinion. Right. At the end of the day... Chair, ask her to be quiet or ask her to leave.
Sandra, can you please be quiet, or we will have to ask you to leave. Stuart, carry on. Can you please be quiet?
I get interrupted once more. I'm standing up and proposing that they leave.
Yeah, feel free to do that.
So I made my point earlier on about is it a budget or is it a funding bid? And the question hasn't been answered tonight. So I think councillors ought to think quite carefully before they vote are we committing the council to thousands of pounds worth of funding, or is everything going to go on hold? And I'll give you an example. We're going to be discussing monies for the roof. If we're not going to do any improvements in this building until we get a funding bid, this roof is not going to be repaired until 2020.
Five, and then Christine.
Thanks, Chair. I appreciate Stuart's concerns about this. I mean, I'm the same, but I do support it. It's like, how long's a piece of string, this, with funding? Nobody knows. We started out 4 years since doing the plans for this hall and the bowling pavilion. They are completed up to a point for public consultation. We've never got there, to be fair. We got those plans done. We were obstructed by the previous administration, and this is not having a pop at anybody in particular, but certain members of the previous council didn't want that to go ahead, and they tried to prevent it all ways. What we finished up with was spending 18 months of this council sorting out what had been left over from the previous one, which is one of the reasons why we've not gone any further forward. The information is there for the bowling pavilion, this hall. I think what you need to do is I think you need to trim this plan. I'm just trying to give Miles some advice. I don't think you need to have too many consultations, because what you finish doing is getting nowhere, because you're consulting people about what they've been consulted on before, and it goes on. You get consultation fatigue. I've done it on housing estates, and you've got to have a cut-off point. I don't think you need any more than two, because you get that many things thrown in continuously changing, you'll never get to the end of the road. So I think you need to look at that. But I say we've got to start somewhere. We need to use this as a basis for moving forward, and I support it. And we need to try and work some costings out. It's all going to be paid for, the bulk of it, by other people's money at the end of the day. We can't afford it as a council, we know that. So it's got to be funding bids, so we've got to do it properly. I know Woodsets have had loads of funding bids. They've struck lucky, they've lost out a lot, but you have to keep pegging away. You've got to do this. Once you've done the consultation, you don't have to keep doing it. It's there in black and white. You just have to keep hoping you get lucky with your funding bid, and you say the right words that they want to hear at that time, and they see what you've done and you've gone through the process. So I do support it, but I think we need to, as I say, have a look at it sooner rather than later and see where we can thin it out and make progress. Thank you.
Can I bring Christine in, and then can I ask that we go very quickly to a vote, because we're rapidly approaching time.
As I was part of the skate park group, I think I'm qualified to answer, as well as Miles, questions on that. The reason that the council or the charity must be involved is quite simple. The skate park is on charity land. Nobody can do anything without permission of the charity. You can't do the skate park as a separate issue. Michael has already agreed as clerk to the charity to head the funding bid because of the difficulties of the charity. A charity cannot give a lease. A charity cannot sell the land. So therefore it has to be the charity applying for the funding or heading it. So does that answer all the questions about the skate park and the charity and the council?
Can I ask that we keep discussion to the point that's been raised here? So it's we've got item A, which is to adopt the Duke of Leeds plan. We're starting to get off into sort of matters for the charity that's already agreed to support the skate park group's plans. So are we happy to move to the vote? Yes. Recorded vote?
Can I have a recorded vote, Chair? Because I believe he's going to commit us...
It's just been requested.
Right, sorry, I didn't hear that. Because I believe he's committed us to thousands of pounds.
Okay, so it's simply to adopt the Duke of Leeds plan. Sorry, Phil, could you use the microphone? I can't.
Yeah. Under this new GBDR, PR, under the, could you, ourselves, I would ask you to have a look how we stand. Please, yeah.
GDPR doesn't affect this issue of each councillor being entitled to ask for how everyone has voted on a particular item, how they voted to be recorded in the minutes. If you're under the GDPR, without going into that topic, you can record personal data if you have various legal grounds to do so. All of those is performing a public task and legal obligations. So you've all got rights, legal rights,
Yeah.
councillor, when it comes to a vote, to ask, to require that how everyone's vote to be recorded in minutes.
Right. It's just that what we've been doing through my work at the moment, and they've stated quite honestly, but it's all that being recorded and his names are here, that if it's been with that, that's all. Could you have a look into it for us, please? For next time, for our next meeting, please? How we stand. Because what I do with my work, emergency services, they're now pulling that with
I'll have a conversation after the meeting about that issue.
Okay. Are we... Sorry? Are we happy to proceed? It's proposed, it's seconded. Great. Do you want me to do the names?
Well, people need to put their hands up in favour of it and then...
No, I thought you should have the people names.
Okay, normally the process would be just to do a recorded vote of how each councillor is voted.
Well, there's been a request by a councillor for a recorded vote. So what I need is people who are in favour put their hands up and I can write down who's in favour of it.
Yeah, the standing orders permit a recorded vote by request of any one councillor.
That's right. Yeah. It's
So
a
it
rule.
means you shout the name out, we say yes or no.
Do it the professional way.
You vote by putting your hands up.
What we normally do is we go around the table and say Councillor Burton for or against, Councillor Jepson for or against. That's where we
I
normally...
advise against that. It's not creeping down.
Right.
It's you put your hands up.
Right.
And you will record who's voted which way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. We'll take that. We'll take that approach. It's proposed. It's seconded. All those in favour?
Against. And it was that an abstention. Thank you.
Okay. Brilliant. So we are pretty much out of time. I would...
I desperately need to know the answer for that. That's a week.
Okay. What we can't do is we haven't got time to have extended debate on it. That's the only thing here. So B, let's do it as quickly as we can. If we don't think that we can have sufficient debate, then we'll have to hold it over to another meeting. B, to consider or approve free use of the parish hall for public consultation on the 18th, 19th, and 20th of August.
No, second that.
Seconded. People presumably who wants to speak on this?
I'd like to speak on it.
Stuart.
I'd like to propose.
I just read out the item on the agenda. Stuart.
Right, I'd like to quickly say, you're asking for approval for free use of the parish hall on the 18th, 19th and 20th. If I remember rightly, 18th and 19th is a weekend and the 20th is a Monday, where it says it's the council meeting that night. Can I just say, there's a cost to that. The cost, although it's our council and it's our meeting hall, we have a cost. Chairman, every time I speak, I'm getting sarcastic comments from members of the public. Can I ask it to stop? And if it doesn't stop, can I ask that you ask them to leave?
Okay.
I don't interrupt them when they're having their say.
I didn't hear any comments.
Well, I'll show you later on, because I've made a note of it all. Right.
I'm not looking
the cost.
at you, Hillary
The cost.
Please.
Right. The cost of hall is £27.60 an hour. So these are costs to it. But there's also the cost of our staff coming in and opening at time and a half, and also closing for 2 days or 3 days, whichever. So there's a cost to it. So we need to know the costings, and we haven't got the costings again. This is the third time tonight that I brought the subject up. Is you're asking to approve things without any costings. How are you supposed to run a...
Sandra.
Right. I'm standing on a point of order, Chair. Time and time again tonight, I've politely asked Mrs Warled not to interrupt. She's doing it constantly. So now I'm going to ask you, if you would, to ask Mrs Warled to leave the meeting, please.
Make the proposal.
Right,
The council,
I'm going to make a
has to
proposal
resolve
that due to the continuous interruption of Mrs Warled, that Mrs Warled be asked to leave the meeting.
Does that have a second?
Right, so in future, councillors, don't come moaning to me, which you frequently do when other members of the public are interrupting. You bring it all on yourself. Members of the public, feel free to interrupt any time you want, because the people around this table haven't got the guts to stand up.
Okay,
right.
please.
And if you're offended by that, I don't really care.
We need to move on.
And grow up as well.
Or standing order that a motion be put to vote without the date.
I don't feel that there has been as extensive a debate as perhaps would be necessary. So if any other councillors do have anything they want to say, please make it brief. But I don't.
Is this on this particular?
On that particular item.
Are we convinced that we can organise it?
I can organise it.
That's the main thing.
I will make it.
There is no clash with
That's what
users of the hall.
He is. He is, but he hasn't worked that out.
But if you notice on the leaflet I've taken Monday off, taken into account of the council and anything like that.
Well, so would you be happy, for the sake of moving us on, that that we propose that the council authorise the free use of the parish hall at a date to be determined later?
There are schools,
Can I just
Chair,
make it?
that are willing to get involved. They finish on Friday, all of them in this area, and they want the leaflets and they want the things to get involved.
Okay, in that case, you put your proposal as it currently stands. Any further
Right,
comments?
Chair, I want to ask a question. Right. On this agenda here, it's asking us to authorise free use of the hall, and it gives 3 dates. Councillor Manship has just now turned up out of the blue and said the Monday has now been taken off. It's either making it up on the hoof, or we're not being given correct information in front of us. But you're not giving us the right information. This is why the plans are farce.
Don't interrupt when I'm speaking, please. Chairman, I believe
Well, we can all play that game.
Once a proposal's been made, you get one chance to speak.
Yeah.
And I think
It was phrased as either a personal explanation or.
Well, it's very poor.
Due to the
proposal.
Which is going to be held on Monday the 20th, I propose that the consultation is held on the 18th and 19th of August, which is a Saturday and a Sunday. It's a weekend.
But what's the cost of the stuff?
And can we go to the vote? Happy to go to the vote? All those in favour? Great. C, to consider / approve pre-prepared questions for public consultation. If I will propose it just for the sake of
Well, just to make you aware as well, what you've got in front of you, that's how it will look on the online survey. When they are printed, they will be printed off as individual questions, so that it's made simple for everybody when they get the questions. I'm sorry, the members of the public have not got them. Didn't have enough paper left.
I would like to propose that the council arrange a subsequent meeting to discuss the questions, potentially to look at amending them. Seconded?
I'm not seconding it, I want to speak again.
Feel free to speak.
Right. Yeah, again, I'm going to ask the question for another time. It says to consider approve the pre-prepared questions for public consultation. Obviously, these questions are going to be printed. So my question is, how much is it going to cost to print these items, and who's bearing the cost of it?
That will be dealt with under item E.
We haven't got to item E yet, because I'm going to speak on that one as well. So I'm going to ask the question again, Chairman. Who is going to print who's going to print the questions, and what's the cost?
I don't think that question is admissible here. I think we really need to...
Yeah, it's a valid question, because everybody around this table is going to vote
We haven't
on...
decided that yet.
Right, everybody around this table is going to vote on whether we spend any money or not. But nobody around this table knows how much that spending is going to be.
This item's not associated with spending, it's just to approve or not.
So
the question.
it's a valid question.
I've proposed that...
So you tell me then, Chair, you've made the proposal, you tell me how much it's going to cost for printing.
At the moment, the questions only exist digitally
We don't need to do that.
and can only be given digitally if you want. If
We're
need be.
approving a set of questions or not, to decide
Alright.
whether we're going to have a set of questions. Then we need to decide...
All right, go ahead then, go ahead. I'm all right, go ahead.
Okay.
Can I just a quick item on the questions? I've you know when you put the oval box, can you get rid of the oval bit? I think it's just just delete it on wherever you've got it. Yeah, I've got a copy of it, but if you know you said to put thing in the oval, it's in the oval, you just put box instead of, you know what I mean? Because it doesn't look oval. Where's that?
So my proposal is that we approve in principle the fact that we will ask questions of the public, but to bring them back to a further meeting because we don't have time. Okay? Are you still happy to second that, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Can we move to the vote on that one? All those in favour? That's carried. Okay, I think we are really out of time.
I think there's no point in doing that unless we can advertise a consultation. We can't advertise a consultation.
You can if you have a approval.
That's what these
Yeah, I think your timeline's going to slip, Miles, because it's simply not possible. We've got to get the
got more important
members of the
things
public
to do.
to ask questions if we want to get to that and confidential sessions before half an hour.
consultation will form if we can't advertise a consultation.
Well, you should have thought about that at an earlier date, to be honest, Miles. The problem is, you're now trying to balance us into decisions.
Why don't we do it
on a time frame.
Why don't we do it same weekend as that?
Proposed for the June meeting, Chair, just to make you aware, not for the July meeting.
Chair,
can we propose? The clerk has a suggestion. In fact, do you want to
Well,
suggest?
just in the interest of moving business on. Just in the interest of moving business on, I'm making a suggestion that you can delegate, you could consider delegating to me as the clerk the power to progress items D, E and F in liaison with Councillor Manship and other members of the council.
I would happily propose exactly that.
Can I just make one suggestion, Chair?
Do we have a seconder is the first, please?
Sorry, yes.
Yes. I've proposed it. Philip seconded it, and now it's worth discussing. Clive?
Yeah, just to sum it up, if this 18th, 19th and 20th of August is going to be problematic, I understand, Miles, about schools. The project that we were looking at doing on the 13th, 14th of September, the schools are back, beginning of September. We've got to this point now where I don't want you to do is like fall foul and it falls into a grey area and nothing happens. Can we look at organising a joint? I mean, you want to use this hall, we can use that up there if we go ahead with that. You're going to get two bites of the cherry and say, if you held it that mid-September weekend, I know it's pushing it back, but you might get a better feedback if you get a lot of people turning up, which you might not get in the summer holidays because people are low, people are on holiday, other things to do. And I'm just thinking we can put this on the agenda again for the 20th. If the clerk puts it, we can see where we are, come back, and if we need to make any more decisions, they'll be in place for September. It just gives us a bit more breathing space. I'm quite happy to work with Miles and the clerk. I'm sure Councillor Ireland as well to try and tie the thing together because it would seem an opportune moment to use both sets of funding, etc., etc.
Let's not get into too much of a discussion.
And
Very short time.
working to a community plan together.
I'll bring Stuart in because he's been patiently waiting and then we'll move to the vote.
I'm going to go against the proposal of D, E and F. And I'll tell you why I'm going against it, because again, we've been asked to approve the design of a banner, there's no costings being put forward. We've been asked to approve design of a banner and leaflets. Just bear with me, don't interrupt me please. Everybody else is doing it to me when I say something, so let's start playing the game. Right? So, first of all, again... Sorry, who was that?
I'm just saying it's not
Please,
a game.
Jonathan, don't interrupt.
Right, that was deliberate, and it seemed to be deliberate, and he's still talking over me now. He's still talking over me.
Well...
And again, now you're making comments.
I would like to end this and move to the, I think...
Right, just let me have my say, because there's a lot of pushing stuff through here. I'm asking again about costings. You're asking us to consider design of the banner and leaflets, and there's no costings. You're asking us to approve advertising in the local press and your mag. There's a big cost involved. Nobody's got the costing. And F, most certainly, I suspect that the reason that the person named here has put this on is because the person who works for John Brailsford, Councillor Miles Manship, who has not declared an interest yet, has put forward, excuse me, I'm speaking, has put forward, excuse me, I'm speaking. Right, now you've just said I'm lying, Miles, so either you take that back, right, you're not going to take it back, no problem. Just don't call me a liar, Miles, and you've just done it.
I would like to put this to the...
Right, let me just finish up, because now I'm expressing my opinion, and people are starting to attack me. So if you want to start playing games, I'll stay, right. Let me go on, because I haven't...
Good advice from the new clerk.
Yeah, let's act like adults, friends.
Right, can I carry on saying what I was saying?
I'd like to put this to the vote.
On F, he declared an interest on the plan. He has never declared an interest.
Can we put this to the vote?
No, I want my say, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to stop me questioning a councillor who hasn't correctly declared an interest in a company he works for.
He has declared an interest.
No, he hasn't. We'll go look on the recording. He declared an interest in the plan, not in the invoice. It's not even a quote, it's an invoice, which is a pre-prepared costing.
What's pre-prepared?
Councillors need to start thinking what you're doing. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. I'll look at the tape. Whether he declared an interest or not, it was in the plan. He called me a liar. He never declares interest when it comes to skate.
Chairman,
he refused to apologise. I'm just going to put him in front of the standards
committee.
committee.
It's waste of time staying, isn't it, really?
Well, off you go then, if you're not wanted to stay.
Well, you're talking that much twaddle and rubbish that no one's interested. I'm interested in the vote.
We'll move to a vote.
Oh yeah, we forgot.
So the proposal is recorded here.
To delegate to the clerk, in liaison with members of the council, progressing items D,
To delegate D, E and F.
Right, can I have a recorded...
To the clerk.
Can I have a recorded vote, please, Chair?
We'd love one.
Would you
They don't need one. They don't need
I give up with them.
Three separate votes, so D.
And can I have a
To
recorded
delegate
vote for three separate votes then?
Okay. Happy with that?
Because it involves...
Proposed and seconded for that resolution. So, all those in favour? Against?
No, Diane voted for, I think. Is that
Diane,
right?
are you abstaining?
No, she...
Oh, you did. Your hand was just down then.
With the spelling amendment.
E. 4. E. Only advice to the clerk, we're voting on each. 1 second, please. E.
Not one of you know how much it costs. I'm against, by the way.
And F.
And it just be no action to walk out of the room while this one's done.
Okay. Councillor Manship.
Strange now he does it after 12 bloody months.
Yeah, that's an interest.
We've got it written down.
I'm not deciding on anything.
All those in favour?
I'm not going to go at you, because I know why you put it on. I know why it's under your name. I'm not going to go at you. It's just that he needs to get a grip of what he's doing.
I think he's got a great grip on it.
I'm against that.
Are you abstaining or against?
I'm against it. Again, no costings. Nobody knows what it's costing.
And I think we've got costings.
I think G will have to come back to the next meeting now. We're pretty much out of time for that.
Costings there. I'm just attached to emails. So I don't know
Given the
about
fact
costings.
that we are on 9:15.
Chair, do we need to agree 14?
We do.
Do we need to consider 13?
Yeah, so we need to go, so we're okay with 11 and 12. We haven't got any reports there. 13, do we want an additional meeting?
I was going to mention about 12 for each chairman.
I don't think any of those... Sandra?
I think you can go now, Sandra.
Are you happy if we skip 12?
Can I make an update in the next meeting? Yeah. Or the next meeting I'm here, because I'm away for the next one.
Bring it to the next meeting.
Yeah, we won't have to. It's just an update on the Open Spaces Committee.
So,
next time.
Great, do it next time. 13, date for the next, do we need an additional meeting? I think we probably do.
Yeah.
Date for that meeting? Between now and
beginning of August, mate.
20th of August.
No, can we not have it...
Next week?
If we have it end of second week in August, then we've got the another one at end of August.
What about the 6th of August?
I'm going to propose the 20th.
Give him time to...
Can't get the agenda.
You can't get sent out in time.
There isn't time to get an agenda.
Yeah, got time to do.
I'll tell you what, Chair.
We'll just go for the 20th and actually don't argue.
We just do the 20th.
Decide.
Because we don't normally have a council meeting anyway.
Clark, you invited us.
I think do the 20th, because we don't have a meeting in August anyway, so we're having an extra meeting.
Can I have proposals, please?
I'll propose that we have the 20th of August as the next meeting.
I don't think we've finished yet.
Is that seconded? So Stuart's proposing that the 20th of August be the next meeting.
I like proposing.
We only one proposal on the table. If this one falls, then you
can't propose it, because I've proposed it. We're playing by the rules. I proposed it. You're proposing the case.
20th of August is the next meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, please bear with us. 20th of August is the next meeting. That's proposed. That's seconded. All those in favour of the 20th of August as the next meeting.
No meetings before.
No, it's pretty much.
Because we're running out of time for agendas.
If we're brief, we can get through stuff, not argue.
Okay, so we've actually already done 14 now under item 13. Resolved to now.
So what did we decide?
Normally,
just finish. I think too late. I mean, I didn't want it.
Well, we don't know
too late.
do we? I thought we...
How many were for that, Chair?
Drew, I want to clarify this 10 minutes.
I didn't want
So can I move that we go straight to the next business?
it was the 20th of August was carried.
Was it?
Yeah.
I didn't vote for it.
No, that's why it was carried.
Well, I didn't.
Everybody stuck their hand up.
No, I didn't.
No, because we didn't vote for it.
Miles did.
Given that we're already, ladies and gents, please, given that we're already at 20 minutes past and we have two contractual items to discuss, I'd like to propose that we move to item 16 in the agenda.
I'll second it.
Move to item 16 of the agenda. It's seconded.
Are we 15 out? For the public?
Yeah, I'm proposing that because we're very, very short on time, we've had quite a lot of disruption to the meeting, that we move to item 16. So I'm basically proposing that we move next business to item 16 of the agenda. That's proposed, that's seconded. Any comments very quickly?
No. We're skipping public.
Yeah, that's the proposal.
I'm not for it, but I believe we should let the public have their say at the end of the meeting. So that's what
I propose that the vote be put, Chairman. Let's move on and let's get some organisation.
All those in favour? The proposal is to move to item 16 in the agenda.
No, I don't agree with that. These people have waited all this time. They have a right. They are parishioners. They do have a right.
They have a moral right. It's a moral.
Okay, all those in favour?
Just repeat what the proposal is.
So the proposal is to move to item 16 of the agenda to resolve to extend the question in public.
All those in favour?
All those in favour?
We want item 14. No.
But you don't have the right to speak at this point, Hilary.
Can you say it again, please?
It's a procedural motion to move next business, so we will move to item 16 of the agenda. That's proposed, it's second. Item 16 of the agenda.
What number?
15. That's what we're going to miss out.
Do you want to miss the public session?
All those in favour?
No.
Okay, that isn't carried. We move to item 15 of the
Ask your
agenda.
question.
Against?
We didn't do that for the other.
Against? Yeah. Item 15. Are we resolved to adjourn the meeting in order to allow the public to raise any issues regarding today's meeting? Proposer? Seconder? All those in favour? Very much. It is limited to 10 minutes.
For everyone.
Socials 15.
Yeah.
Can you keep it short, Kenny?
No. We have.
Or other people won't get a chance.
I'll be last, don't they?
Oh, yes.
You don't know, but let me ask you a question.
You go. No.
Hillary will take you first.
Thank you.
Well, what do you want to know? Do you want me to give you a song? Is that what you want me to do?
Keep it short.
Yes, I will. Are we ready? Yes, thank you. Earlier in the meeting, it was mentioned that this clerk, bless him, is going to have to write letters, look back at this, that and the other, and try and catch up. Let me say, through the chair to the clerk, I have letters outstanding from 2015, 2016, 2017, and emails from 2018. Are you listening, Chris?
This is today's meeting.
Wait a minute. I've referred to today's meeting. What I'm going
It needs to be something that's
What I am going to say to you, Chris, is don't bother looking through those because I've moved matters on myself. Okay?
Anyone else?
You can leave those out.
Kevin?
Right in your load.
Miles' plan, I agree with it all. I think it's fine. I think a lot of work has been done over years. If this were to kick off and funding was actually gained for this, what would be the actual start and completion time? Has anybody?
It's not a question.
I know it's a long shot,
We don't have time
is it going to be over 10 years, 5 years, or have we got some sort of guideline to as how long this project's going to take?
Can you ask Councillor Manship separately?
I'm not bothered about costing it, I just want to see some progress.
So I think Councillor Manship's just said that he's very willing to answer any questions that you've got.
Right, yeah.
Please contact Councillor Manship outside the meeting and he'll be glad to answer them. Kevin?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea that Miles is doing because for the last 3 years we've had drawings done and everything that are now obviously shelved in office somewhere, no one's ever been done with them. Perhaps if we pass all them to Miles, we might get somewhere with them. But the biggest problem you've got is like when Stuart said public consultation and one thing and another, and everybody's going on about it. You shot your Senate 2 years ago because you abolished newsletter that every member of the public got. So you're not helping yourselves. You need to help yourselves. Keep in touch with the public. And let Miles have let me in fact give him draw with filing with all drawings that, like Stuart said, we've already spent £12,000, 6 on this, 6 on that. Give to Miles and let's see what can happen. Well, that's what Stuart said. It's on camera. If you want to tell me when you get home. Well, Stuart said...
Okay, it's not a session for us to respond. The point has been raised. Thank you.
Because obviously there was a lot more members of the public here at the time, you went into confidential session about Rackford Meadows. Was anything decided, or are we any further?
It's not an issue for this meeting. It's not being discussed.
So we can't. When do we get an update for that then?
We didn't go into confidential.
You didn't go. Right.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you very much. I'd like to move to 16 to resolve to exclude the press and public due to the confidential nature of the business to be transacted. Does that have a second then? Bill. All those in favour? It's carried. Can I ask the press and public to leave at this point?